Hello, everyone, and as always, welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. And today it's back into the big one, Gary Grigsby's War in the Pacific Admirals Edition. This is our Let's Play against the devilish Mr. Lodric, and it is now March 1st, 1942. So we've moved into March. As you see right up here, the moonlight's 100%. It's a full moon tonight. The werewolves are out howling at the moon. But yeah, March 1st, we're in the setup phase here. We've just looked at the combat for late February, the last couple of days of February, and now we're setting up for March. This time, of course, we'll go look at the stats as we do every time during the setup phase, and I thought we'd look at Pearl Harbor and China. So try to look at those two this time around, depending how far we get. We'll also take a big quick look around the map as well. So let me focus on the screen here. And let's go to the stats. So this last time we ran 5,587 sorties. The Japanese ran 5,726. So almost parity there. That hasn't been the case very often. But last turn was a fairly quiet turn. I think Lodric wanted to give his forces a little bit of rest. They have been on the march since Pearl Harbor Day. So maybe just a little quick respite. We did lose 8 fighters in air-to-air combat, or 8 planes in air-to-air combat. The Japanese lost 0, destroyed on the field 0-0, 0-0 on the flak, 2-2 on the operational. As we sit right now, it would be a Japanese major victory. We've got 451 political points. Japanese score 15,137. Our score 7,503. So he's moved just a little more than 2-1 ahead of us at this point in the game. Bases controlled, we've got 474. The Japanese 363. Allied aircraft points lost 1037. He's lost 636. Army points lost 6681 to 122. We have had 390 ships sunk. As far as we know, the Japanese only have 7. We think it's more than that, but no way to know with the fog of war. Let's look at the ship sunk last turn. Nothing. That's what we like to see. That's what we want to see every time. Now you're going to lose some cargo ships, but the more it can just be a cargo ship here or there and not get surprised and lose battleships or other things, the better. Of course, group reinforcement for the aircraft. As always, just kind of interesting to look down here. We get these Kitty Hawks in at Townsville. If we look at these, pretty okay aircraft. I mean, they're fine. They usually come with very untrained pilots, but we do get one group of Kitty Hawks that actually has the best that Australia has to offer. And those will probably almost certainly put at Townsville. Hopefully, it's this squadron right here. So when we get those in 3 days, we'll check that out. At Colombo, we get some swordfish in. So these are torpedo bombers. That's great. The more he comes out and harasses Colombo, it'd be nice to have some torpedo bombers in there. And then at Aden, we get some Hurricane 1 Trops, the British plane, the Trop, and we'll get that straight down into India as fast as we can. Either put it at Colombo, Madras, or Calcutta. We certainly need those. What are they attached to? 222. So they're attached to the RAF group that is in Colombo, and we may just go ahead and put them there. The Hornet, we're 10 days away. So 5 turns. In 5 turns, we get another American carrier, and you can see the various aircraft that are on there. We also get a cruiser, the Vincennes, and that's got some recon aircraft, as you can see here. These are kind of interesting, these Beaufighter 1Cs. They come in at Sydney. These are fighter bombers. You can see here fighter bombers. They're attached to Royal, RAAF, the Aussie Air Command. I don't know, what do you use them for? They're not really very good in either role, but okay, sure. We get some of those Dragons, which are transport aircraft, as are the DC-2s. Those come into Melbourne. So we're going to be getting, some transport craft just in case out in the Australian way we need to transport supplies or troops or otherwise. You can also see the CV, the Formidable. We get these various aircraft as the British get another carrier. Now, we lost one already. We probably won't put the Formidable out at Bombay for obvious reasons. So, anyway, that's the air reinforcement. The ships that are coming up, always have to do the old double sort there. There we go. Lots of destroyers down at Balboa. They'll be waiting on the Hornet when it sails down from the east coast of the United States. We also, what else is interesting? Nothing too exciting. The Paladin and the Panther are two Brit destroyers. They almost always have 8 ASW now on a scale of 1 to 9. So that is fantastic. I mean, those are great anti sub workers there, the British destroyers. Get a lot of tankers in at Abaddon, which is another good thing. We'll have more of those going to Cape Town instead of just going to Karachi as we get more and more. At this point, we've loaded India up with so much dang fuel. Like, Bombay has fuel enough to last for a whole year, I think, at this point, and it can distribute it out to the other areas of India or make supply. So we got those things coming in for ship availability, group reinforcement schedule on the ground. Let's look down here. What all do we get? Things that aren't attached. We get the 641st Towed Tank, and it's really an anti-tank battalion. That comes into the eastern U.S. We throw it on the rail, get it to Los Angeles, and get it out into the Pacific because it is not locked into the United States. We get some things into Chajilajap, which isn't great for these guys because Lodric has already landed in Java, so he's going to be over at Chajilajap before you know it. 48th Chinese Corps into the Lusu War area. We are going to go look at China a lot this time. We get these different group armies in at Chongqing coming up in a couple of weeks or so. But we'll check all of that out. All right, let's take a quick sweep around the map, see what's going on. Nothing, untoward is happening up here in Karachi, Abaddon, Aden, this kind of axis where everything comes down here. You can see all of the traffic we have coming in and out of Karachi right up here on the corner of the map. They just have to go right there. Then they get up into the pipes where they're protected. We do have some Australian troops up here, as you can see, and it's all of this artillery. These are field regiments. I brought them in here. I can tell you, a little later on, we're going to take those down to Australia. We've now beefed up with, Indian and British forces. We've beefed up India. I'm more worried about Australia. And so these Australian units will actually, what I like to do is put them through over here into the box, down to Cape Town, then sail them from Cape Town to Australia, whether to Perth or Sydney or otherwise, or to Melbourne, I mean, or otherwise. So anyway, there's that. Um, in India, the main places you're going to have everything are Bombay. You can see our setup here at Bombay. You just want to always make sure you have an anti-aircraft. Now, if we look at the commands here, strangely enough, Southern Command, you would think Southern Command would be down here. It is not. It is static in Bombay. So that's where Southern Command is. And then most of the things, I say most, many of the things we have here are Southern Command. We have one Northern Command because that would be up this way, and there's no reason really to have troops up here. So anything that's free, you don't need for a garrison requirement. Get it out to the coasts if you can. We've also got the AA from 3rd Indian Corps. Now, 3rd Indian Corps, unfortunately, it's all over the place. A lot of it's in Batavia. We also have one of the divisions out here at Colombo from 3rd Indian Corps. They all start out on a boat at the start of the game, or most of 3rd Indian Corps does, and then you have a decision to make. Where do I want to take it? Do you take it to Rangoon? It's ticketed for Singapore, but ultimately you're going to lose Singapore, and there's just really very little reason to put it up there. So I took part of it, took it to Java, but I took a whole division and put it in Colombo. But evidently the AA ended up here. I can't remember that long winding story of why it did, but you do need this AA. Now you may say, why don't you change the commands? Well, like for this, to change this over to Southern Command, let's see if we can find Southern. There's India Command, there's Southern Command. It would cost 36 points. For anti-aircraft, kind of what's the point? Um, why do that really? It would it would give them a little command advantage, but for anti-aircraft, I'd rather buy things off the U.S. West Coast and put them out in the Pacific. I think that's a better use of your points. So anyway, that's kind of the setup at Bombay. We only have a garrison of 205 here. We got to bring more over here. It's unlikely that his first landing would be in Bombay. That would seem a little logistically difficult for the Japanese. They're probably going to land in Madras up by Calcutta, and if they are going to come after Calcutta, they may either uh, land here at V Town or over here at Akyab or Chittagong. Anyway, we still need to have a decent force at Bombay because you lose Bombay, you probably have lost the game at that point because he's up here. It's 500 points for him. That's a lot. That's a lot. 500 points. All right, coming down the coast, the next big place, of course, is Madras. That's 450 points. If we look at Madras, you can see we've got this garrison up to 800 almost. We've got a lot of stuff here, including a full Australian division, the 6th Division, which is adding 479 of those points. I brought this 6th Division down here this game because he's been so aggressive that I wanted to cover India until we got more and more British troops. I think we've done that sufficiently now. In the next few turns, I'll take this Australian group. I'll take them by rail all the way up here to Karachi. I'll put them on boats up here or transports, and we'll take them to Australia. But I just did this because he's kind of done the unexpected in this game, and I was afraid he may actually bypass Rangoon and come for a Madras or a Calcutta first, and so I covered that off. You don't want to be leaving a lot of ships in the Madras area. It's easy for him to sail up here from Singapore, and I think that's not his carriers. They may not be back down here yet. You can see I've got my two British subs right here, the Trusty and the Truant. I've got them sitting right here in the deep water. So if he brings his carriers up here, maybe we'll snag one. Um, yeah. So anyway, you don't want to leave a lot of ships here at Madras. You really anywhere over here in the Bay of Bengal and even Colombo gets dangerous as we've seen certainly. Over at Calcutta, we have a garrison of 738 right now. If we look at that, most of that is going to be, let's do attached to, most of that is going to be Eastern Command. This is actually where Eastern Command will eventually be. Right now, the overall big India command, so the overall command, is here at Calcutta. AHQ, which is the head air command, is here as well. Oh, there it is. Duh, I just totally missed that. Eastern Command is here, and most of these things you would like hooked up to Eastern Command. There were a few things we did not get to Rangoon, like the 7th Armored Brigade would normally end up in Rangoon. That's why it's attached to the Burma Corps. You see here 3rd Indian Corps. Sure enough, 77th Heavy AA. So this AA from 3rd Indian Corps, I've really spread it out. And then we have some things from Northern Command here as well, just things that were up here that weren't needed for garrison requirements. Most of these are smaller groups, 29, 29. We'll move those guys around to Chittagong, Akyab, Cox's Bazar, maybe even put them out here in Prome so that when he takes Rangoon, we've got kind of a backup for that on the chance that he does. So anyway, we'll move some of that. We even have a Southern Command thing over here, so it's a little mix and match grab bag in Calcutta. We've got 17 ships in port here. A lot of them are these little AKLs to go to Rangoon. These other ships, we can probably get these out of here, the Baroda, whatnot, and take them to Bombay, and then we'll run Bombay to Colombo with these ships. These are only 5-point ships, I believe. Yeah, so they're perfect. They've got a 2,900 capacity. They're perfect to go Bombay to Colombo, I think, anyway. HDMLs, good anti-sub on these things. They've got an 8, but You know, they don't have much range. They're only 1 point little ships. Then we have another AK and AP. Both of these need to get the heck out of here. Over at Colombo, I always get stuck over here in India. I find this part of the map fascinating because there's just so much that can happen over here. But you can see all the different planes we have. We got these torpedo bombers just in, right? Naval attack, uh, we've got them on that. You can see here their extended radius is 7, normal radius is 6, so I have them running 6 so they can use the torpedoes. For the torpedoes, we've got this thing pulling 40 torpedoes whenever we need it. And so we shouldn't have a torpedo problem out here. Also got numerous fighters, Hurricane 2As, Hurricane 2Bs, more 2Bs, and more 2Bs. Now some of these just came in. These are all under maintenance. This is that K squadron. Oh, this is a good example. Look, average experience 38 for these guys. So, I mean, they need to go up to 100 training, maximum range 0, training escort. That's perfect. And let's look at the aircraft data. You can see, you know, they can fly up to 20,000 feet still with over 20 maneuverability. They can even get up to 25,000 feet with good maneuverability. So I put them up at 25 or 30,000 feet because they can do it. So it's pretty good plane, these 2B trops. It's just that our pilots aren't very experienced. And if we look at them here, ugh, yuck. Some of these guys we may want to get out of here and request a veteran, but we'll have to wait until the planes are ready to go and then we'll request a veteran. You can see all of the anti-aircraft we have out here by Colombo. It's a bunch. We got a bunch in. One or two of these, no, they're all Ceylon Command. They've been naturally placed here, all four of these. And so when he's going to come with planes over Ceylon, he's going to run into a lot of flack. All right, let's motor along here. Cape Town, I don't think there's anything too interesting to say about it. There's nothing much less to say about the Philippines. You can see all of the damn ships he has coming over here to Java and the Dutch East Indies. I mean, look at this. So we've got AMCs with a bunch of APs. We've got, what is this? We don't know what this is. Two ships sighted. You can see all of the subs we have out here. Now, I hate to have them in shallow water, but they already are past us, you know, this way. So we got to get over here and try to not like this group would be perfect, right? All transports with an AMC, which is a high value ship, in front of them. I mean, if we can get into these guys. So I've got all of our subs over here congregating, trying to knock these out. Now I have these subs up here. I really should get these out of here. We'll go put them over here in the deep water, maybe in the Sulu Sea or over here in the Makassar Strait, someplace like that. You know, just take this sucker. I've got him moving up there now. Let's not do that. Let's actually go to patrol zone and we'll do a 1 hex patrol zone. Let's say, how about right here? All right, so anything moving down through here, he may get to. You can see he'll sit right there, make sure he's got a max react of 1. Perfect. And then we'll take another one. Same idea. This is how I do it. I just give him a 1 hex patrol zone. And this guy, you know, he's going to come probably down right through here. Let's put this guy there. So they'll come around there, make sure it's on max react 1. It is, so that they'll move 1 hex on either side if they detect anything. And I'll move these other ones as we go. Also up in this straight probably doesn't make sense. Let's do the patrol zone. Let's set him right up here by these guys. We'll just set him right next to it. So there's nothing that can really get by up here as long as we have that max react 1. There will be nothing that can get through here without our subs at least having a chance to react to it. We still control the southern part of Celebes. We still, you know, have Surabaya and Batavia, but as you can see, he's bringing a lot. We still have Palembang. You may say, why is there still a ship at Palembang? Well, it's just a 1 point little local minesweeper. Okay, I mean, we don't even have enough range to get that anywhere. We've had our planes coming out of Batavia and otherwise. This is a recon aircraft. We've still got some level bombers. I've got them all on naval attack at this point, just hoping to get a lucky shot in on something. We also still have three of the B-339s up in escort. You know, those aren't long for the world. More naval attack. You get the idea. You can see he's landed at Dobo and Taberfane, and now he's coming over to Somlaki. He has now landed there as he starts to take the little islands just north of Darwin. You know, that is going to come under pressure, and I'm trying to get as much supply in here as I can. You can see it's only at 4651 now. These guys are going to unload here, make sure it's on do not refuel, and then try to skedaddle down to Perth. We also need more supplies out at Darby and Broome, and I'll tell you, Broome is worth 70 points to the Japanese, and Darby is 30. That's 100 points, but it's very hard to supply out here. It causes a real problem, but that's 100 points to think about right there. Um, We've got another transport coming right along the coast to try to get into Darwin. The last thing you want is to have to give up Darwin because you don't have enough supply there. You have enough time to load this up with supply. And if you look at Darwin and we look at the spoilage percentages, meaning what's the limit, the supply limit 152,000 can be stored here. So don't be shy about dumping supply into Darwin. Down and around Perth, you can see all of the anti-sub activity I have going on. We just have anti-sub everywhere, everywhere. These are two, well, that's the Stuart. What do we have here? That's the Worman Bull. And then we've got our big task force here, which is cruisers, light cruisers, destroyers. Um, and then what do we have here in the port? We've got another destroyer. We've got a light cruiser, the Sumatra. We have a task force in here, cargo task force that's unloading. And then we've got the Q, usually out here, but as you can see, nothing here right now as they're moving out of Cape Town. They'll move out of Cape Town and then they'll line up basically directly with Perth. And this is where we enter and exit the map over here. And I've got those destroyers. They'll go out, they'll escort it in, and then like this one that's sitting here, right there. He'll escort it out a little ways, and when I think it's safe, then we'll pull the Bulmer out and we'll put it with something coming back to Perth. And you just run that line every time. Make sure you build up Albany and Esperance because you definitely can put ships in here. As a matter of fact, if we look at Albany, it's a level 3 port, but it can go all the way to a level 8 if you needed it to. So I always build this thing into a 7. And that way you've got another level 7 port. Assuming that you're also building Perth into a 7, you'll have two. So if he pressures you here at Perth, at least you have another good port on the western side of Australia. So I always build that up. Esperance isn't quite as good. It's a 3. I mean, it's not terrible, and you can certainly build that because you'll be dumping a lot of supply in here, supply and fuel out of Cape Town. Just something to think about. Australia, what's going on here? American troops have been landing here quite often. Here's the setup. I've got a very kind of minimal amount of troop presence at Melbourne right now. I've tried to scoop most of it up the coast. We will need to have more than this. I've seen Japanese players pick Melbourne as their initial landing spot. Again, you know, tough logistics for them, but big risk, big reward. If we go to Sydney, you can see we've got a lot of artillery here, and if we click on this, assault strength 419 at the moment. We've also got the RAAF command, we've got 1st Australian Army, the overall Australian command, Eastern Command, every dang command. Everybody wants to hang out in Sydney, it seems. Not a bad place to spin the war, probably Sydney. But so we need to build that up more too. And some of this artillery, this is a tank attack regiment. Probably move that up where it's a little flatter, maybe in Rockhampton, Townsville, where you're going to see more tank activity. See, some of this is rough and rocky, not going to see as many tanks. Sydney probably not going to see tanks, so we'll move that north at some point. Um, so it's mainly Sydney, then Brisbane. Okay, and in Brisbane, we need more here too. We just don't have enough. But this is actually almost up to 500. It doesn't look like that much, but we've got the 5th Australian Division. We've got the 2nd Australian Cavalry Brigade, which has a lot of assault value. 1st Motor Brigade, which is over 100. So these are really good units, even though it doesn't look like a lot of units. So, it's Sydney, Brisbane. Make sure you build up Rockhampton. This, again, is one of the most popular, if not the most popular landing spot for a Japanese invasion because it splits you in half, which, you may think, well, obviously they'll come into Townsville. Well, I mean, certainly that's true many times, but if they can take Rockhampton, now all of a sudden they've cut Townsville, Bowen, Cons and Cookton off completely, cut it off, and so Rockhampton can be very popular. Sometimes Brisbane, but really Rockhampton is probably the place that I see the most. We do have an American unit up here, the 185th Infantry. This is part of the 40th Infantry Division, and we're buying the other parts of that out as we go. We've already got the 108th on a task force, so here's the 185th that's sitting in Rockhampton. 108th is on a task force. 160th is still in LA. We'll need to buy that out from West Coast Restricted. Exit. If we go back, this is under 1 US Amphib. I made a mistake when I bought this out. It really shouldn't be that. It should be in 10th US Army or just Pacific Fleet. I'm going to eventually have to change that. I don't know why I did that. I think I was going to land it on an island, and so I put it under Amphib, but Amphib, US Amphib, that's a Marine command. These guys are US Army. So they're probably like, what the hell? Why are we taking orders from the Marines? One second, I'm gonna grab a drink. All right, back with you. Yeah, so Rockhampton, I usually put a full American division in Rockhampton, and the AmeriCall division I put in Townsville usually, maybe Brisbane, but usually Townsville. So I have a full American division at Rockhampton, a full American division at Townsville, because if the Japanese land up here, I want to, fight them tooth and nail. You got to hold them off here. If we look at the point totals, click on that. It's 225 for Rockhampton. It's 120 for Townsville. So as you go north, it's a little bit less. 60 to Japan for Cairns and 30 for Cooktown. So as you move down here, Bowen is only 10, but Rockhampton's the big one. That's another reason I think the Japanese player often lands here. 225 to the Japanese there. Of course, Brisbane 750. Sydney is 2,500. Well, that's game over, right? I mean, if he gets 2,500 points and lands at Sydney, what's Melbourne? 2,300. Okay, well, don't give up those two. How about that? But Rockhampton's the one after those two major Australian cities that you really got to look at. So what's my setup here? Let's look. Australian Command, for everything here, and if we look at what he's got, what we've got an armored regiment, two of them, the 26th and the 29th. We have an Australian machine gun battalion, the 19th. Okay, that's here. So 17, 27, 18 on the Av. Second Reese, we've got here, and that's 19. So, again, that's going to be the armor here. And then the other two are the armors there, the 26th, the 29th, the Reese. Those also I like to have in Rockhampton. The reason is they're very fast and they can react to, let's just say he does decide to land in Brisbane. We can take that armor and very quickly get it down here to Brisbane or cavalry if the rail has been cut. Now, sometimes if you have enough time, you can send it by rail, right? But if he slices the rail somewhere, I like to have these around Rockhampton or down in this area because they can move either north or south very quickly and cover anything you got going on. I've got some things on strap move here. Let's see if he's actually where he should be. Yeah, I did want this in Rockhampton, so we'll set that to combat. He's ready to go. He's already got his objective. Let's look at Reese here. Yep. I wanted him here. You can tell just because I set the objective some time ago. So that's now on combat. And the final one is this construction. No, construction. Coastal artillery. That'll go to combat. Of course, you want some coastal artillery in every one of these towns. And that's the coastal artillery symbol right there. We've got a base force with aviation support of 16, which is kind of the usual Australian aviation support. You want more, and we'll get more later. We get a lot more units in base forces and aviation support forces, but you want most of your planes, and you can see I've got only 8 Warhawks here. At Brisbane, I've got 8, so I had to split the Warhawks up. At Sydney, 8, and I'm not sure if we have any fighters at Melbourne yet. We just don't have that many fighters, and the ones that we have, I've got them coming from the U.S., but many of the ones we have, I put up here at Townsville. I say many. I've got 2 groups of 8, so this is a split squadron. You can see that's part C. This is part B of the 13th, and I've had to split them up. I've also got some in Cairns. I've got another part of the 20th and another part of the 13th here. So, I've had to split these all the way up and down the coast until we just get more planes over here. They're on the way. Don't you worry, but they're not here yet. He still sits here at Moresby. He's trying to starve us out. Meanwhile, we're trying to starve him out. Looks like Caesar and Gaul. He's in between the 2 different forces, but we don't have enough strength to hold on once he lands again, and it looks like he'll be landing soon enough. You can see I've got all of my subs now. We don't want them in the shallow water. We've got them in deep water all around here. Here. You can see I've got subs just everywhere where he may come to follow up on this Port Moresby attack. I've also got more American subs that are down here. I've got them based at Sydney. You can either base them at Sydney or Auckland early on. Later on, we'll put them, at Suva with a submarine tender out here and do it that way. You can see there's some Japanese sub activity. I've got another sub out here, or 3, the sailfish, swordfish, and sea lion, all just kind of lurking around Suva out here. Nomaya, I'm dropping some things off here. They're taking a lot longer than I want them to. Like, this needs to get the heck out of here. It's already dropped off everything. Another thing, when you're moving these transports in war zones, make sure you do troop load only, right? We don't really want them dropping off supplies for these high value ships. Here we're dropping off the 2nd Marine Regiment. So that is now getting on the ground. I'm not sure what the assault strength will eventually be. We'll run replacements on and upgrade. Any of this stuff that you drop off at the islands, you want replacements and upgrade. If we look at Suva, got all kinds of stuff at Suva. And part of that is, if you look at this, Suva is worth 975 points to the Japanese. That's another one of those. It's like you kind of lose the game if you lose Suva. And so you've got to beef it up as much as possible. We have 1st Amphib, the main Marine command in the Pacific, is here. We've got 1st Marine Raider Battalion. We've got several field artilleries. We've got the U.S. Marine Corps Tank Battalion here. We've still got some Kiwis that are sitting here, the 34th Battalion, the 29th Battalion. We've got 2 U.S. Fighter Command here, a Port Services, and a base force. So we have 2 base forces out here. You want all the aviation support you can get, and I think I've got 25 Warhawks sitting here running cap over the top, but we'll bring more and more and more. I can't overstate the importance of Suva. At Nomaya, we've got 18 Warhawks, but it's a group that could be 25. You want to make sure you have replacements on there, and we'll say upgrade no for now. We have plenty of Warhawks, and so we'll just keep that there. Now, sometimes they can be delayed if they can't get the replacements here. Just something to keep in mind. So yeah, at Suva, I mean, we've got a lot of stuff here on the island. If we go down to Auckland, you can see how much we're bringing into Auckland. And we've got stuff coming out of Auckland to resupply the islands. Every island I'm resupplying. This is coming back to Sydney. This is going to Nomaya. This one's going to Suva. And it's, for the most part, low value ships that you want to bring in here because it's always going to be a war zone around here. That's why I've got subs here. I've got a lot of planes here. We have now landed in Luganville and Afate, and you can see we've brought some supplies and some transports out here. So we're starting to build that supply. It's getting close to 5,000. We brought the two-thirds koi out here, and we've got the Rockhampton base force ended up out here for whatever reason. Afate, we've got the Catherine base force that ended up out here. We'll bring more troops because this is where first contact really out in the South Pacific is going to happen. He's already landed at Tulagi, and he'll start very, quickly, probably moving down these island chains. And then, Luganville's 50 points for him. Afate is 50 points for him. So, you're talking about 100 total points just grabbing these two little islands. Nomaya, meanwhile, is what? 30 to Japan, but it's worth 300 to us. So if we lose that, it's a big deal. What do we have down at Auckland? I dropped off all of these planes here. I'm putting a base force up at Norfolk. This should probably be done very early on. I didn't get it out here soon enough this time. Um, and we're going to skip those planes with their drop tanks on from Norfolk to Nomaya. Then they could either stay here, go to Suva, or even jump over to Pago. If we look at Pago, you can see all of the fighters I've dropped off there. They can hop from Pago to Suva to Nomaya, and from Nomaya they can even get over to Brisbane. So you've got this, if you have the drop tanks on, you can jump these things around. If you build Norfolk, it can jump, here, there, and everywhere, wherever you need the fighters. I've also dropped off out here at Rarotonga. You can see all of the shipping I have heading to, well, this one's going to Tahiti. This is more aircraft bombing groups going to Melbourne. What kind of bombers are these? These are Marauders, so these are going to be naval attack for, what they're going out here to do. Those are headed that way. We've got a huge tanker force coming into Auckland with all kinds of fuel, 56,000 on the fuel. Some stuff headed back to LA, to Haiva-Oa. This is going to Pearl Harbor. That's another tanker group that I brought down to Tahiti. So again, Rarotonga, Tahiti, Haiva-Oa. You don't have to build up everything. Pick your spots and really build them up. So my second line of Haiva, Tahiti, Rarotonga, and then up on this, level, Penryn, Pago, Suva, Nomaya, right? And then we also are building up Canton because for whatever reason he just decided not to come get it. We may as well build it up if he's just going to leave it to us. So we're doing that as well. Back here by Haiva-Oa, let's just get back here for a second. You can see we've got a lot of shipping coming down this way. That's cargo. It'll tell us where it's going. Destination Pago Pago, the destination Suva. Make sure those are supplied. You just don't want them to get starved out there. That's going back to Pearl. This is going back to Pearl Harbor. Okay, cool. Now we had detected some submarine activity here. He used to have a picket here, but I think we destroyed a lot of those subs with our carrier group when it came through. But it's now March 1st, so let's go into Pearl Harbor and let's look at this carrier group. There's really no reason to have this together right now. Let's disband it and put it into the port. And now let's look at ship type, and it'll always put your CVs right up top. Okay, so we've got our 4 carriers here. The Hornet's going to show up in 10 days, but it's going to be on the East Coast, so we've got a little time. And if we come look at the Lexington Upgrade 342, yes, you want to make sure that's the case. It's March 1st, so when we turn this turn, these guys will start to refit and add a lot of anti-aircraft. They go from like 1036 up to 1700. And you can remember early in the game I'm saying, well, the scale kind of runs from 1 to 1,000. And generally speaking, that's kind of how you can think about it. This the Lexington class can go all the way to 1700. That is a lot of anti-aircraft. It'll also, I think it boosts the speed a little bit when it refits, and I think the guns get a little bit bigger. But we'll take a look at that. Let's just look at it now really quickly. We've got the 5 inchers and the 8 inchers. The 8 inchers are front and rear. On the right side and left side, you've got 5 inch guns. Then you have the 1.1. These are the anti aircraft guns, but those will be changed, as are the Brownings. Those will be changed out, and that anti aircraft will um, do that. It takes about 20 days or so to refit the carriers. So that'll be happening right away. Now, you may want to, and if we go to ships under repair, you can see right now we're at 96,000. Capacity is 100,000 in the shipyard. Some of these things are about to come out. Like the New Orleans has no more major damage. So there's no, oh, it's only pier side. Sorry. Let's go back here. Pier side. Yep. In the shipyard is the California, the Arizona, the West Virginia. We may take those out of the shipyard. We'll see what the capacity situation is when it all happens. But let's go back here and let's take off all ships, and then we'll just go carriers, and we'll make sure that we're allowing the upgrades. All right. So the Lexington is 342. March 1st it would start, which is today. The Saratoga is 342. The Yorktown is 442. All right. So it's going to be another month for the Yorktown and the Enterprise. And if we look at those, let's just go back to that really quickly. Right now, the Yorktown's only 600 for anti-aircraft, whereas the Lexington is 1036. Like I said, the Lexington class, when it comes out, will be like 1700. The Yorktown goes up to like 1,000 or 1,100. But you're definitely going to want to do that with these, in my opinion, before you send them out to fight the Japanese. You're also going to want to get the perfect plane load. As it is right now, we only have 78 planes on the Lexington, and we could carry up to 90. So we're probably going to have to split a squadron of fighters. I would probably want more fighters on here. We've got 2 groups of dive bombers, one of the torpedo bombers. Probably want to put more fighters on here if we can. We're only got, we've got 3 that are a little damaged. They'll be fine by the time we get ready to go. That's only 27 fighters, though. We can add another 12, and all of a sudden, we've got nearly 40 fighters instead of 27. I think that's definitely something we'll do. What else is going on here at Pearl Harbor? Well, a lot. You can see 245,000 on the supply, 790,000 on the fuel. We have 81 ships in port. Oh, by the way, so let's go back to this. We've done the carriers. Um, let's take the carriers off. Let's look at the battleships that are actually in fighting shape. New Mexico, Mississippi, and the British Warspite. The British Warspite, I think we want to send over to Cape Town. And we'll take some of the destroyers and do that, but we'll talk about that in a second. Upgrades not till June for the battleships. Mississippi. Okay, so we're going to want these to be on yes too. They're not going to bottle anything up because they can't do it until June anyway. So we're okay there. And okay, so we'll take the battleships off. The cruisers, let's see when they could upgrade. Well, we've got one 442 there, the Northampton 1042. So there's different times that the different classes, but you can see here, oh, this is actually already refitted. Northampton class, and then when you see this 1942, that's when it refitted. And now it's up to a 644 anti-aircraft for this cruiser, but you can see the last time it refitted right there in the title. The Chester, same idea. Northampton class all refitted already. They went up to a 644 on the anti-aircraft. Well, that's awesome. Okay, great. Let's see about the light cruisers. 442 again. You just want to make sure that, they're not all out of commission at the same time. 442, the Honolulu 440. So it looks like the light cruisers refit April 1st as well. Some of the cruisers have already done so in February. And then, so let's make sure we've got all of these on allow for upgrades. So we've clicked that. Okay, let's go look at the Warspite. Uh, and we'll go back to all ships. There's the Warspite. It is a British battleship. Okay, so really I'd like to get that over with the Brits. Let's make sure its error is doing what we want it to do. Search, it's a general search, 50% of the time, naval search, perfect. That's just what we want at the maximum range of 5. That all looks good, 6,000 feet. Okay, now what? Well, let's go make sure we've got some destroyers, and we do have plenty. And these are all with the carriers. Let's see when they can upgrade. 342. Okay, well, these can upgrade right now. We've got the destroyers on no, which is interesting. Let's see if that's true for all of it. I mean, they should be. Sims class is what these all are. 342. Okay, well, let's take this off. Let's just bring up the destroyers. All right. These are all the exact same, as you can see here. Allow upgrades. Let's go ahead and let these upgrade here in March. And when we get other destroyers in here or these guys get upgraded and we're waiting on the carriers, what I'm going to do is batch them up. Do I have a destroyer in with something else? Well, we've got KVs. This is out of Vancouver. What else do we have here? See, Penguin. Okay, nothing really. We'll wait for a destroyer, or, well, actually two, and we'll batch that up with the Warspite. Then we'll have it go through the Panama Canal and sail all the way to Cape Town, through the Panama Canal and then up through the pipes and get the Warspite over in Cape Town, because we do need more British vessels over there. We're very, very thin on British vessels, main capital ships, mainly because we've lost some. But let's not dwell on negative things. You can see the aircraft that we have here. They're all 7th USAF up here, and I've got almost all of them either training or flying cap over Pearl Harbor. So you can see the number of aircraft we have here. I think somebody had asked, maybe in a comment or on the Discord channel, are you worried about a second Pearl Harbor? Well, we've got about 200 aircraft total when you add them all up that could fly cap over Pearl Harbor. Plus, we have 4 carriers here that each have about 80 aircraft on them. So all told, we probably have 500 aircraft we could put up over Pearl Harbor. So the short answer to that is no. Not really worried about that. 7th USAF, early on here, we're pretty much going to keep all of that at Pearl. What you're looking for are either, now the Independent, this is coming off of a cruiser, or a battleship potentially. These Seagulls, those are recon aircraft. But then you have some stuff that we could actually get off of here, um, but they're marine aircraft. They could go on a carrier like this. They're all going to be carrier capable when they're marine aircraft. And you may be saying, how do you know they're marine aircraft? They start with these call signals, the V's here. So VP 71, that is U.S. Navy. Okay. VM, that's U.S. Marines. So the Marines are the VM, the VPs are the Navy. So any of these VMs here, you can see they're U.S. Air South Pacific, Forward Air Central Pacific. They are not really locked here. We could move those, but I have all of these Catalinas running search all around Pearl Harbor. And if we go look at those, there are these 4 PAs right here. You can see that search pattern, that search pattern, that one. So we're going 360 degrees all around Pearl with 12 Catalinas in each one of these groups, right? And we're getting the experience up on these pilots 52, 59, 54. They started off way down in the 40s. These guys are at 64. I mean, they're doing a lot of search out here. And then if we go back and look at this, so that's the Catalinas. We have these Dauntlesses. They could go on a carrier potentially. They're carrier capable. They're just not trained yet. The Vindicators, as someone pointed out in the comments, the Vindicators are not the best aircraft. That is right. I think at some point I said, hey, these are pretty good aircraft. They are not. The Vindicators are not. Torpedo bombers, right? Or they can carry a torpedo. Is that right? Hold on. Let's go look at the aircraft data. No, they're all bombs. That is a bomb. Sorry. It looked like a torpedo. I should know that. Here I am talking about the Vindicator. Uh, that is a dive bomber. Yes, indeed. Uh, what else do we have up here? 7th USAAF. Like I said, you either want this running. We don't want these B-17. These are doing ASW when he had a lot of submarines out here. That is not the role that you want them in. Instead, we'd want to go training, ground attack, bump that to 100%, altitude 8,000 feet, range 0. That's how you set up training. So we would want those training. We don't really need anything on ASW. We can look at the Liberator, which is another heavy bomber. Let's put that on training, bump it to 100%. We'll say ground attack, 8,000 feet, no range. There you go. And we'll get those training and get those liberators ready. Someday they're going to slice and dice the Japanese, certainly. We've got our islands building up out here, Johnston, Palmyra. Oh, before we leave Pearl Harbor, let's look at the ground units. We've got all of these here in the Hawaiian department, but they can be bought out, right? And they're part of the 25th Infantry Division. So that is anyway, and that is, I think these are all 25th. Nope, this is 24th, and that's 24th. So we have two that are 24th and two that are 25th. Now, if I remember correctly, one of the 25ths, yep, the 161st is part of the 25th. That is a unit that I have all the way over in Australia already. And then I've got another, well, that's all 161st. And then these two that we just talked about are here at Pearl. We'll want to buy those out. If we look at the 161st Regiment, I put that in just Pacific Fleet. All right. So if we bought this out to Pacific Fleet, it would cost us 650 points, which is kind of the average for building out or buying out an infantry regiment. So just something to keep in mind there. We have a lot of shipping coming, around. We've got this coming up to Pearl. Uh, Not as busy out here now. Pearl is pretty built up. Let's see what we have going on over in the Panama Canal. We've got a ship. Did one just go? Oh, I've hold on. Make sure to click on all ships. Yes, we just got 4 new cargo ships down here. The Steel Age, Mariner, Scientist, and Worker. We'll batch those up. The Endurance isn't quite enough to get to Auckland, so we'll probably build these up, go to the east coast of the U.S., and have them just run east coast to Balboa or Cristobal, and then we'll have more long range ships go from Cristobal out to the Kiwis. Now, I said we were going to get to China this time. I'm going to just very quickly go over it, and we'll spend all of our time next time in China as far as just talking about specific things. Uh, but one thing I'll just show you, I have got Fourth War Area here. We've got Ninth Group Army, which is part of Fourth War Area. All of this is Fourth War Area. He is now moved into Wu Chao. We have a lot of strength here, though, and we'll see. He may kick us out of Wu Chao, but we're going to start really fighting for every step because if you look at this, Kuei Lin is worth 60. Lu Chao is only 20, but Nanning is worth 60. So all told, this is 140 points. Add in Wu Chao for 20, that's 160 points just in this area, right? Cheng Shaw is worth 60 for him. We lose 60, so that's worth 120 points or the equivalent. But we're going to go through all of this. You can see he's starting to pressure up here by Hang Yang. He's here at Wu Chao. As we come along here, this is the real problem. He's cut off our massive group coming out of Cheng Chao and Luoyang, and we haven't been able to find a way through here yet. We've also gotten kicked out of Yan'an, and he's starting to pressure Lan Chao. This is all becoming a real problem, especially right up here in the north, and we're going to have to come talk about all this. There's a lot going on in China, but we'll talk about that next time because I want to keep these little bite sized anyway. So, anyway, thank you so much for joining me. This has been Strategy Gaming Dojo. When we come back, we'll look at the combat resolutions for March 1st and March 2nd. And then we'll come back and look at China and check it out. It's fast. I love the Chinese war part of this game. It's really interesting to me. I wish there were more, just other war games that were built on this system for land-based warfare. I find it really interesting. It's really big operational kind of stuff, but it's a lot of fun. So anyway, Strategy Gaming Dojo. Talk to you next time. Have a great one.